Navratri, happy Garba, happy fasting, everything. Yes? Very auspicious time of the year, time to celebrate festivities and everything else. Yes? Superb. Let's see who all are in the house. Let's welcome Rakshita. Super gorgeous morning to you too, Miri Jan. Yes, I have chopped my hair about 2 weeks ago. Every day I wake up with one new haircut. For some reason, this hair is needing a little more management than usual. This weekend was a heavy weekend for me, so I've been not caring much. Good morning, my beautiful lady with a gorgeous smile. That is so sweet. Oh, hi, sweetheart. Good morning, Saubana. Ab aayega maza. That's so cute, Kashish. Alright, let's look at some of what's happening in the chat box. Fernandez is asking, in the morning on most days, I know I have so much to do, but I don't know where to start. Everything seems to be super important. How can I decide? Nice question. So one of the ways I make my decisions is I love to ask myself what's the most important to me in my value system. The deeper you understand your values, the better you can decide your priorities. So let me give you an example. Let's say I have to do cooking. I'm just giving any random example. I have to do exercise. I have to do my gratitude and my morning routine, and I have to send children to school. Let's say these are my 4 activities. Now, what are the things that matter to me? Sending the children to school is important to me because I want to be there to wake them up, to get them ready and all of that. My gratitude and my morning routine gives me a lot of peace, so I want to do that. But cooking is not my favorite, so I need to find someone who I can delegate that to. I'm not the most fond of exercising, so I will do whatever I feel like doing, which could be a little bit of swimming or just walking around my house while I kind of like decide my funnel or my material or my content or my creative part of my work and all of that. So what I tend to do is, what are the things I have to do and what are the things I get to do? I want to do the things I like doing, choose to, get to. I don't want to do things that I have to do. So whenever there is a have to involved, I like to delegate that duty. Lovely, fabulous. Yeah, exactly. And so that's a lovely way of being able to decide. Now there are things in your life that you don't want to do, but you still, you have to do them, so why not start to choose to do them? So there are some duties, like maybe you don't like waking up in the morning. But if you don't wake up in the morning, all those 16 things that you need to finish before noon will not happen. Now, can I associate that with that? Can I make that connection? So a lot of times, why do I exercise? Not because I love exercising, but I'm a hyper independent person and I like to be independent. I don't want to be dependent on anybody. I don't want my godas and my back to ever be an issue enough that I can't, look after myself, because I hate sympathy and I hate victimhood. So because I don't want sympathy or victimhood, I better look after my health because my value is independence, right? So you can start to connect and start to make sense of life through your value system. So I'm going to highly encourage each one of you today and sit down and ask yourself, what are the things that really truly matter to me, and what are the things that I'm just doing out of duty or just doing them because I'm supposed to? And then who can I ask for help for all of my supposed to's, and and what are the things I really want to do? And the more you start to do in life that you love doing, you will start to see the happier, the more joyful, the more in alignment you will be with your highest purpose. Make sense? All right, Manifest with Pragya saying, Pooja, can you please share how to do more on track with everyday routine in the most practical way so that in long term, I am getting closer to my long term goal? You know what? Sit down and make a list of all the routines and rituals that you'd like to introduce into your life. One of the things I keep recommending is savers, a little bit of silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading and scribing. Okay, if you can get these 6 things onto your morning routine, it is absolutely fabulous and will give you a very strong start to the day. Now, I don't do all of it every day. Some days I do affirmations because I'm doubting myself a lot more. Some days I want to do gratitude because I'm in a space of a lot more gratitude. So different days I have different energies and I know what I need. When I'm in my masculine energy, I tend to do more feminine rituals. For example, the feminine rituals are all the things that flow, that are spontaneous. Masculine energies are targets and deadlines and goals and, all of that. And then I like to mix it up with a little bit of breath work, a little bit of meditation, a little bit of... So the thing is to have a buffet and then every morning get a brand new plate of different kinds of foods instead of getting bored with that same morning routine. Now, some of you are superb at following the same thing day in, day out. My husband is an extremely organized, disciplined kind of person. He can do the same thing every day. He can eat the same food every day. I can't. So I need variety. I need excitement in everything that I do. I need everything to be new. So I have a value system of newness, right? So now that I know that, I don't get stuck with these. I was watching, I think, a Sadhguru Jaggi video where he was very sweetly saying consistency is for animals. He's like, I want every day to be a new day. I don't want every day to be the same day. But I still believe in building consistency. So how will I build my consistency? By doing the same, the end result being the same. I just want a new activity. So can yoga, Pilates and swimming be interchanged for me? Yes. Still remaining in the same energy of movement, I'll manage to get all three done. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? Shruti, can you explain hyper-independence? Hyper-independence is when you want to live your life without too many expectations from others. So I feel like at some point in my life, I learned this concept called 100% responsibility from one of my mentors called Jack Canfield. It's also the first chapter of his book called The Success Principles. And I'm really fond of this particular concept where, you take responsibility for your own life. Now, when you start to take a lot of responsibility in your own life, a time will come where your expectations will start to evaporate and you will start to take a lot more onus onto yourself for the things that you do. And to me, that is a borderline where you will also then stop depending on others. You will not let anybody upset you or, be sad about anything because you would have gone into this zone of जो भी करना है मैंने अपने लिए खुद ही करना है. And I remember hitting that whole zone and starting to get super comfortable with the idea that I get most peace when I love people unconditionally, which means if I can drop all my expectations. Now, this is not a level 1 conversation. Firstly, you have to know that expectations do not come from your choice. They come from, when you keep giving in a particular relationship, there is a return that our reflex action or auto default mode wants back, right? So if I cook the whole day for my husband, I will want him to appreciate it in the evening. Now, step 1 of that is learning to manage your disappointments. Step 2 of that is to let go of the expectation itself. And step 3 is completely unconditional, where you're not doing it for anything. Like you're not even doing it for the expectation. So these are steps you have to evolve. So step 1, manage your disappointment, which means he didn't give me a compliment on my food. So I asked him, how's the food, baby? I cooked all day. Is it okay? I'm managing my disappointment that he's not complimented the food I've cooked for him all day. Step 2 is no expectation. I'm not, I know he's not the kind who'll appreciate, but I'm just doing it because I love cooking. And step 3 is unconditional love, where you do it with not wanting anything in return. And in life, when you start to do things in your life with no expectation at all, that's when you move into hyper independence. And it has to be used correctly, because sometimes you can go the other way also, and that can cause fatigue and exhaustion. So a lot of hyper independent women do feel a lot of fatigue and exhaustion because they are not using people, they're not depending on people, they're only depending on themselves. So every quality has a light and shadow. So learning to be hyper independent while learning to manage your fatigue and exhaustion is a complete picture. Just becoming hyper independent will only exhaust you. So it's not for everybody, but I hope somebody picks up something from this conversation. Mohini, ma'am, I was wondering, how do you manage all your work, your house chores when you are not well health-wise? Oh, you know what? I think your number 1 priority has to be your health, because anything, when you're So I heard a sentence which I really liked. She said, if you have problems in your life till you have a health problem, and if you have a health problem, then that's the only problem you have. Okay, you have problems in your life till you have a health problem, and once you have a health problem, that's the only problem that you have. So once you understand that, you have to work on your health first, right? Because if you're having a health issue, then people have to help you. Then you need delegation, then you need assistance, then you need, so I don't know how somebody can be sick also. And I mean, sometimes there can be a phase in your life where I've got flu, but I also have to manage my sons. Like the other day, my co-sister had fever, but her son also had fever, so she didn't have the luxury of relaxing because she had to look after him, right? So a lot of times that can happen, but majority of the times it's your job to ask for help, to delegate, to get someone to, guide you in terms of, or help you in terms of, in case your health is not fine. And prioritize your health always over everything else. Kirti is asking, I don't feel like doing anything, like getting out of bed in the morning is also not out of choice. So Kirti, that's a great symptom of first stage of depression. So it's worth asking yourself, what energy am I living in? If you're not even feeling like getting out of bed, you are not living your highest purpose, you are not connected, you are not aligned, you are running away from life. And this could have happened because you don't have enough freedom, people around you are not understanding you, there's not enough respect. It could be a million reasons. A lot of times when I hear things like that, I normally recommend people to go to a doctor, go to any psychologist, psychiatrist. They will be able to guide you on, or even a life coach can help you, on how to now start to get going or getting back to. Depending if it's a chemical locha, you will need a psychologist, psychiatrist. If it is a situation where you're not in alignment with your highest values and you don't know, you don't have clarity on your life, it can even be caused from that. So just start to look at what are your top 3 goals. What are the 3 things that in life, if you achieved, you will start to feel a lot more joy and happiness. And then start to go after those things, and you'll start to see yourself, coming back to being awake again. A lot of times when our expectations in our life haven't been matched, our disappointments actually numb us. You get tired of waiting for people to do things for you. You get tired of being so disappointed that you say, to hell with life, I don't want anything from anybody. And that puts us a lot of times in depression, because the minute we will shut our desires, our dreams, our, all that we want in our life, then not only we shut our wants, we also shut our emotions, and we shut happiness, we shut joy. So very important it is to always remain connected to your deepest desires. Shruti is asking, how can we schedule energies? Kind angel, warrior princess, queen bee, divine. These are all practices. So for being a queen bee, you have to be, able to recognize and really love who you are. A sentence I love repeating to myself is, I am complete, whole and perfect. That's a lovely way to own your queen bee energy. Kind angel is, what can you give? In every relationship, ask yourself, what can I and how can I contribute to this relationship? Warrior princess is all about boundary setting. Where in your life are you being taken for granted? How can you, start to say no in a polite but firm manner? And divine feminine is deep gratitude. Like this morning I woke up and it took me about 25 minutes to do 100 gratitudes, and I didn't stop. I put the timer on and I didn't stop till I had finished all of my 100 gratitudes. You do 100 gratitudes every day, you will see a shift in your entire energy. It becomes very hard to remain negative when you have so much to be grateful for. At some point I got stuck and I was writing, I'm grateful for my nose, I'm grateful for my eyes, I'm grateful for my ears, I'm grateful for my feet, I'm grateful for my, and that's okay, because the thing is, because let God take away even one of these things, you will want them back, correct or no? So we don't realize, I'm grateful for air, I'm grateful for oxygen, I'm grateful for the flowers, I'm grateful for the outfit, I'm grateful for my hair, I'm grateful for my makeup, I'm grateful for my earrings, I'm grateful for my rings, I'm grateful for my bracelet, I'm grateful for my... And you keep writing and you keep writing, you keep writing, and suddenly a time comes and suddenly you feel like that empty box inside of us, that emptiness starts to just fill up till you reach a moment where you're like, oh my God, wow, there's so much to be grateful for, and here I am busy thinking about that one sentence someone said to me a week ago. Ashley PVK, hi ma'am, how can I leverage my environment to my advantage? So I think Jay Shetty said it very beautifully that every space has memory and energy. So the thing is, do you have specific spaces to kind of inspire you? You know, so I have a particular sofa set where when I sit and read, I tend to feel most connected to my reading. I have a lovely pool area where in the morning I love to sit and have my coffee. I have a nook on the side where I do my gratitude. I have my working table on that side of my house. I don't know if you can see my working table. It's actually behind the thing. So that is somewhere where I sit and do this morning I did my entire chart system I was creating for something, and I did that. So it's all about creating these special places in your house where you can start to feel supported. Now I also have some places in my house where I like to binge watch my iPad and eat. So I know that if I sit there, my mind, because your body has memory in every space, is going to tell me that I want to now eat something. So I'll ask for my pumpkin seeds and I'll start watching something on either Instagram or on Netflix or whatever. So how can you create in your environment the more rituals and spaces you can add, create a certain ritual in a certain space. Marry rituals to spaces and you'll start to see your environment will instantly start to boost you, because eventually you will get conditioned that the minute you enter the temple, that's how you will feel. The minute I'll go into my pool area, that's how I will feel. So what happens with rituals is your emotions get locked in. How many of you have noticed the minute you remove your shoes and you go to your temple and you light your agarbatti, there's a certain amount of faith and surrender pose and mode that you go into, correct or no? The same way, I have a bar, and the minute I'll go there, I will have a very different energy than of faith and surrender. It'll be more like, let's rock it, let's party, let's, whatever it will be. And like that, different energies for different spaces. The more you start to understand rituals, energies, emotions are all interconnected, the more you will be able to use your environment to your advantage. Yes? Hi Pooja, you're so amazing and role model. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Is the book Success Principles helpful? Did it help you? Oh my God, it changed my life. Rinku's asking, if you have good health, you can have multiple goals, but if you have bad health, then health is the only goal. Yes, thank you Rinku. Yeah. Let me go right to the bottom. Khushi, ma'am, whenever I do gratitude, always I get to the negative feeling associated. Like if I thank for some work I've done, I get the thinking that it was not up to the mark. So how to be totally positive? Khushi, it's all about training your mind. Okay, so if your mind is all the time being negative in terms of doing your gratitude, don't call it gratitude. Start from negative and move to positive. So what you can do is literally write in your gratitude, I am so grateful to God that I did the work, even if it was not up to mark, at least it got done. So you can build in the negativity in the gratitude and sandwich it between two good sentences. Okay. So let's say I bought myself a new dress and I thought I was looking very pretty, but instantly my mind is telling me, but you were looking fat. I'm just taking a random example. Okay. And so what I'll do is, I'm so grateful to God for a brand new dress. Even though I was looking a little fat in it, I'm just so happy that, you know what, it still helped me show my curves. Between two positives, I'll put in the negative to sandwich it so that it disappears. So I call it the Karela technique. You put the Karela right in the middle. That way, see, whenever we will try to resist a negative, the negative grows. When we own the negative along with the positive, then you can't make out, is this a positive sentence or a negative sentence? True or not? And if your mind can't make out, what will happen is eventually with time, you will get conditioned to see more positive than negative, because for every positive you are actually, for every negative you are putting two positives. So you are doubling your positive effect. True or not? Lovely. Adeem Meherais, do you still go through the fear of rejection? Good question, Adeep, because I can't remember the last time I was actually scared of rejection. Whenever I do something new, I do feel the fear of failure. I do feel the fear of people not buying that particular program. I do feel those fears, but I treat my nose in a very gamification way. So I'll tell you what I do. Even when I'm teaching sales and marketing, I'll always speak a lot about go collect the no's in the beginning. Don't look for the yeses right in the beginning. Look for the no's. I remember my teacher once taught us the 9 no concept, that after every 9 no's you will get a yes. But 90% people will never reach the 9th no because they will not have the courage to get that many no's. Now my teacher Jack Canfield got 144 rejections for his book Chicken Soup for the Soul, that eventually went on to be the Guinness Book of World Record of maximum books sold under one title. Imagine a book that eventually came under Guinness Book of World Record was rejected 144 times. What does that tell you? That you know something that others don't. So in the beginning, I love to treat my no's as tweaks. So I don't use them as no's. I just go, okay, this got a no. What can I fix to get a yes? Okay, this again got the no. What can I fix to get a yes? And I keep taking feedback that, had you done this, had you done that, if you can add this, if you can add that. And eventually the yeses start to come. So a no is a no if you accept it. Otherwise, 80% of the time I've seen, if you're persistent enough and you keep tweaking your product to suit the market. I launch thinking that this particular product of mine will do very well. But the real truth is what people want, they're telling me in the chat box. No, Pooja, but we wanted this. Pooja, can you also add that? Pooja, we would love this part of our relationship to be covered. Or Pooja, we would love for you to also add the morning routine with your spouse or whatever. And I keep adding till a time comes my course becomes exactly what the market wants. Got it? So for me, I don't actually believe in rejection, because rejection, there's a lovely concept called rejection. I'd heard this young girl who used to live in America, and she used to say SW, 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 SW. And what does it mean? Someone will, someone won't, so what? Someone's waiting. And I remember being floored by this as my motto for a few years, that I will only itself reject rejection, because the truth is someone will, someone won't, so what? Someone's waiting. And till the time you remember that not everyone is here to buy from you, but there are people in the world who are waiting for you. Once you understand that, then it becomes very easy. Like, I know my conversion percentages. So what happens in my work is, I don't feel bad when 10 people out of 100 buy. I already know that this particular funnel of mine or this particular program of mine converts 10%. So I've actually hit target when 10 out of 100 buy. For somebody else, it will be like, oh my God, 90 people rejected me. For me, I'm like, oh wow, 10% came. Are you starting to understand? So I hope this was helpful for you. Purvika is asking, why is it that if I speak assertively to my parents, still they don't listen and respect my boundaries? Purvika, there is a hierarchy in families, okay? One of the things that happens is that parents come above children, and so your assertiveness doesn't mean much to them because they are in hierarchy higher than you. So we don't speak assertively to our parents. We have to make requests to our parents, unless we are not financially dependent on them. So I don't know how old you are and what it is that you need to set boundaries on, but a lot of our life's hierarchy changes when we are not financially dependent on others. So if you're not financially dependent on your in-laws, you're not financially dependent on your husband, you're not financially dependent on his family, you are in a position of setting a lot better boundaries. Otherwise, all you're making is requests. When there are no consequences on your boundaries, then those are not called boundaries, those are called requests. Make sense? Kritika, I have always been a dreamer and somehow I've manifested a lot of them too. But from some time, I feel I won't be able to fulfill any of my dreams as I don't know how to. Any advice? Kritika, once the dream comes to us, that's our vision, okay? You have to sit with your vision and make a list of your capabilities. Our vision and our capabilities are not a match in the beginning. There's a beautiful video by a man called Ira Glass called The Gap. Okay, everybody can look it up. Ira Glass, The Gap. And what it speaks about is barely a 1-minute video But what he speaks about is that in the beginning, we are not going to be able to satisfy our capabilities. So what's going to happen is Sachin Tendulkar is going to decide he wants to play cricket and he's the best in his colony. And he's doing phenomenally well. And everybody's telling him, oh my God, you're too good. But then he goes and joins the state team. And he's coming last in the state team because he doesn't have the kind of practice and he doesn't have the kind of people around him, because these are all his seniors, that he's looking like a fool there because he's not able to play the game at the level that everybody else is playing. But what he does, he starts to put in the hours. He practices. Suddenly he's better than his seniors. Suddenly he's better than the whole state team. Now he's going to be playing for his country. And now he's going to be playing international cricket. And now he's going to be playing. And so there's always a gap between where we are to what we are dreaming. A lot of people, straight from their dream, want to start to achieve their dream. You dream and then you work 2 years on your dreams capabilities. Okay, you need to make a whole list of what are you capable of. And the minute your capability and your vision start to match, you will start to see unlimited possibilities opening up. So do try looking at life with what are those new capabilities. I remember when COVID happened and I moved my entire work life to Zoom. I did not know anything about technology. I did not even own a computer. I did not know how to do Zoom. I did not know how to do breakout rooms. I did not know how to put ads. I did not know anything, right? So I've had to learn the entire technology of what I run now, an online business. Imagine I run an online business without being great in technology. That's literally my state today. Because what I've learned is that anything I need, I can learn. And you know who's my inspiration? My own Dadi. So till she was alive, or you know, if you see some of our grandparents, they didn't even know English. Yet in the Khandan group or in the family group or they'll be the first one to copy paste forward any kind of a video or message, because that they've learned. English आती है नहीं आती है उनको forwarding करना videos को आगे है पूरे अच्छे से. It just shows. Or you see a 2-year-old child, उसको इंग्लिश आती है नहीं, वो स्कूल तो जा नहीं रहा, ABCD तो आती नहीं है. He knows how to open your phone, he knows how to reach his Pokemons, he knows how to use Peppa Pig, he knows it all. How? Because the thing is, anything that you're interested in enough, you will learn. So stop being harsh on yourself on the fact that, you know what, I don't know if I'm capable of. I want you to know you are not born capable, you have to become capable. Make sense? Roop Thakur is asking, procrastinating a particular task for too long, although it's very important, please suggest what to do. It's not important enough, as simple as that. The day it's actually important and urgent, it will happen. Maybe right now it's important, but it's not urgent. That means in your life, the suffering hasn't hit rock bottom. This is what I tell people, like why somebody is not taking action, because the suffering hasn't hit rock bottom. How many of you have noticed we can't quit smoking, we can't quit smoking, we can't quit smoking. Suddenly the doctor says you have mouth cancer, lung cancer. That day we can leave smoking. What changed? The suffering or the pain became greater than the joy of the activity. We always have to look at pleasure and pain whenever we are trying to build any kind of habits or any kind of, you're procrastinating because it's not urgent enough or not important enough. If it's not important enough, write out your why. Why do you want to do this? Okay, build the fear, build this thing, you'll stop procrastinating. Then just look at urgency. Build artificial deadlines if you like. Like a lot of times, I'll put my own deadline. See, I'm my own boss, right? I don't have a boss. So I want to, let's say, launch something next year, 1st April. I have to start working for it now itself, right? So I'm building my urgency by putting that as a 1st April. Who decides it will launch on 1st April? Me. What happens if I launch it on 1st June? Nothing. But because I have a deadline, I will work backwards. You remove the deadline and I'll become complacent, easy with myself. So if you really want to deal with procrastination, you have to be closer. Firstly, you have to have a deadline. And then the closer you are to the deadline, the more the chances of you achieving it. There's a lovely concept in procrastination called the panic monster. Your panic monster has to awaken for you to take action. Which means there has to be a price to pay. If there's no price to pay and the only benefit of doing something is just a huge success, success alone is not a driver or a motivator. You have to have also some pain of not achieving something, correct? So look at how you can balance that out. So a lot of times I put artificial deadlines, I put artificial consequences, I purposely will take on a coach or somebody that I'm accountable to and spend money so that he makes or she makes me do it because I can't do it on my own. Some things I'm very motivated to do because they are in alignment with my values. Some things within the work, I don't like accounts, I don't like technology, I don't like creating PPTs, I don't like doing ads. Now I know these are my weak points. Now in my weak points, can I have someone else that I'm accountable to? That way the chances of it getting done become much, much higher. Make sense? Yeah. So try. So work through your procrastination. Don't keep hammering yourself, I'm a procrastinator, I'm a procrastinator. I think too many of us have labeled ourselves and accepted ourselves. That's a problem. Everybody is a procrastinator because in life we have to learn to prioritize what's important, what's not. So everybody is a procrastinator. Now, are you able to procrastinate the right things and are you able to prioritize the right things? That's what makes you different from everyone else. Now, for me, anytime I'm procrastinating something for too long, I ask myself, is it really important? Or is it somebody else's should that I'm trying to do? For example, losing my 5 kilos. It's important, but it's not important enough. Now, if somebody really asks me, because I speak so much about losing my 5 kilos, it must be important, otherwise why would I say it so many times? No, the guilt of not losing 5 kilos is actually more important than losing the 5 kilos, which means by speaking about it, I get rid of the guilt. But I'm not taking any action, which means by in itself, I'm not really, my why is not strong enough. Today somebody tells me that Pooja, now because of this 5 kilos, you're going to start to have knee pain or ankle pain or you're going to, any health, because health is a priority, fitness is not for me, okay? The minute you associate it with health for any reason, I know I'll start doing it. Till the time it lives in the fitness range, 5 kilo idhar ya udhar theek hi lagti hu. That's what I'm going to land up saying, yeah? Life Coach Sneha, what is the difference between responsibilities and expectations? Responsibilities is what you decide to take charge of your life. Expectations is when you're waiting for someone else to do it for you. Take any example, okay? Let's say I want my husband to take me on a holiday, okay? Expectation is he'll book the tickets, he'll do the hotel, he'll do for me this whole trip, he'll plan it because he loves me so much. Responsibility is when I stop waiting and I go, I'm going to do it for myself. Are you coming or not? Okay. So responsibility is when you take an expectation and make your action more important than the waiting that you are having from someone else. So just taking back an expectation and making it yours becomes responsibility. Got it? I mean, this was in the context of what I had spoken earlier, so therefore I'm keeping it in that context. Otherwise, the definition of responsibility is much, much bigger, of course. Swati saying, ma'am, you are so honest and that's your beauty. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you for noticing, Swati. That's a beautiful compliment. Eternally yours. How can I build a stronger connection with the universe? Oh, what a beautiful question. So one of the things is that the universe is all the time communicating with you if you are willing to listen. So I'd love for you to Google today what are all the various ways the universe communicates to us. Okay, so I'd love for you to start to speak the language of what you say is what you mean and what you mean is what you say. And the more you live in integrity, the more deeper your connection with the universe, because once you trust yourself, the universe starts to trust you. Let me give you an example. Let's say I want to wake up at 7:30 tomorrow morning, okay? And I have no trust in my body and energy. When my alarm rings for 7:30, I'll snooze it. Now my body knows इसने उठना है नहीं, इसने बस बोलना है, okay? And if that's your energy, the universe can't speak to you. Let's say you wake up the whole week with the alarm. Can I tell you the universe or your body will start to wake you up at 7:30 sharp. At 7:29, your eyes will open and before the alarm rings, you will be wide awake. How many of you have experienced this? Tell me in the chat box if you know what I'm talking about. the universe starts to talk to you. The universe will open all doors of intention if you are in your integrity. So if you really want to get deeply connected with the universe, start to just speak what you mean and mean what you say. So just have that connection. Say what you mean what you say. Say what you mean. Just become your most honest self. The more honest you are, the more lesser masks you are wearing. So we tell a lot of white lies, okay? As human beings, we're all the time creating stories and telling half truths, and the more of all of that we are doing, the lesser connected we will be to the universe. Why? Because we're all the time in storytelling mode. Now in storytelling mode, there's so many masks. There's no clean energy for passing by. You know how they say Saraswati tongue pe बैठती है? Is it Saraswati? Yeah. सरस्वती टंग पे बैठती है. जो लोग झूठ नहीं बोलते ना, उनकी टंग पे परमानेंटली सरस्वती बैठने लग जाती है. You know, so you want to start to use the whole universe. Universe will start to show you signs in your phone through numbers. 1111. Today morning I was doing a maths, and by chance I needed to give 37 people 3,000 rupees. Okay, so I was doing the maths of 37 people 3,000 rupees, and I just did the maths, and the number came to 1111, something like that. It was just one very that 1111 number, and I was just like, oh wow, what a beautiful number. The universe is all the time speaking to us. Just tell the universe, okay, show me a sign if I'm thinking right about this project. Okay? And ask God, what can be a sign? Butterfly can be a sign. A feather can be a sign. A very unique flower can be a sign. A number can be a sign. I'll go to the temple and I say, अगर आज मेरी basket में red rose किसी भी तरह से आ गया, कभी कभी rose petal आ जाता है, कभी कभी red rose, तो I know कि जो मैं सोच रही हूँ वो ठीक सोच रही हूँ. And once you start to have these conversations, to others, the people may think you're mad, but you know what? Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once for you, your God becomes omnipresent. It is impossible to remove. You will see coincidences, miracles, synchronizations, synchronicities, serendipities everywhere. Okay, it's so crazy once you start to live in the miracle life. Yeah. So try all of these things. Meditation is, of course, the more switched off your projectors are, the slower your thoughts go by. We have 60,000 thoughts per day. If you can even reduce it down to 50,000, if you can reduce it down to 40,000 by just relaxing yourself, you know, the speed of our heart is the speed of our thoughts, which is why sometimes our thoughts will be racing, even our heart starts to race. True? And so the more you can do breath work, the more you can be connected in your meditation, you will slow everything down. And the slower you are, the more present you are. The more present you are, the more connected you are to the universe. So pause, stop, you know, notice your breath. Every hour, just notice your breath. For what? 1 minute. You don't even need to change your breath. You don't even need to amplify it. You just need to observe it. For every 1 hour, become an observer for 1 minute. You are going to start to live the awakened life immediately. Okay, makes sense? Now try some of these things. See what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you feel is waste, what is you feel is like, yeah, this works like magic, you know. Superb. Garima, ma'am, how to overcome health anxiety? Even a small blister makes me feel that it will be deadly. It will be a deadly disease. Please help. Garima, just start to write letters. Okay, the concept that I absolutely love following is the negative to positive letter writing. So first, I will write out a letter, which I will write out all my fears. So let's say I'm writing, dear blister, I am so scared. Whenever I see you, you are so, you know, yucky and filled with pus and this and that, and I'm wondering if it's cancerous, and I'll just put all of my fears on that paper, take a lighter and burn that. Now that whole thing is gone. Now I'm going to rewrite a letter to myself saying, you know what? I am God's special child. I am highly protected. These small things just come and go so that no big thing comes. And I'll create a brand new story in my head, which will be so sweet, so positive. I may not even believe it the first time I write it, and it doesn't even matter. But by the third, fourth time when something happens, I won't even have to sit and write these letters. I'll first process all my fears by not resisting. I feel like a lot of us, we resist. We're like, oh God, if it's cancer, oh, don't say the C word. It's, you know, I don't have anything like that. I'll go straight till my death if I have to in my negative letter, burn that, and then go super positive. Now what happens when you remove all of the negativity? Now the negativity has no space left. So you can put in the positivity because there's a vacuum created because you got rid of the negativity. A lot of times we try to be positive on top without getting rid of our negativity. Now there's no place there, but you're trying to stuff your positivity. Your negativity will spill over and eat up your positivity. Okay, so you don't want to be positive without addressing your fears, without this thing. Now a lot of people say, Pooja, if I write it, what if I land up manifesting it? You're burning that. No, why are you burning it? You're burning it so that it gets released, so that all of your fear, negativity, all that is sitting in your body gets released, not gets manifested, gets released, so that now you can bring in the right energy, right thoughts, right for you to manifest. You know, so that's how you work with your negative thought process. I am seeing angel timings today itself. I woke up at 10 a.m. and as I got up, I opened the phone and I came here at sharp 10:10 as angel timing and I saw you, my guiding angel. Wow. Love that journey. Oh, thank you, Vivek Vasanta, saying this whole concept of just a minute where you tune into your breath is called jam. Oh, that's nice. Just a minute. Wow, I like that. Aparna 1765 is asking, how can we become more graceful and heartful of sweetness? Wow. So Aparna, I worked very hard on my grace and on my sweetness. I remember telling myself that I want to become someone who knows how to speak to people. So earlier on, I used to take a lot of pride in my aggressive Punjabi behavior, which over time I started to feel like was not the best version of who I wanted to show up as. So for a year almost, I remember, like, if you gave me this coffee cup, I would drink it with elegance. Everything that I would do, I would try to do it with elegance. I would pick up the phone with elegance. I would, close the door with elegance. My husband was very, what do you call that? He loved the whole idea of a graceful, elegant woman. I was an extremely bubbly, cheerful kind of a person. I feel like now I've become a nice khichdi between being cheerful and bubbly and being graceful and elegant. So it's kind of like a mix. I won't say I'm completely graceful and elegant. And I also started to emulate people that I knew of who were this category. So do you know somebody who has a lot of grace? I'd love for you to write out their name and start to emulate them. Ask yourself if you were them. Let's say you find, let's take any actress's name, Sushmita Sen, very elegant and graceful. Then I'll start to emulate her. Maybe you find Twinkle Khanna or Priyanka Chopra, So how do they act? How do they sit? How do they speak? How do they hand gestures? How do they behave is something you can actually emulate. For me, kindness or sweetness came more from the energy of Mother Teresa. For a long time, I kept asking myself, what does Pooja feel like doing? Standing up and slapping that person. Okay, that's me. What would Mother Teresa do? Sit there and have a gentle smile on her face, knowing that divine will take care of all of this. And then I would just sit there and have that gentle smile on my face, truly believing in the divine, because I was emulating a kinder energy than mine. Whoever we think about, we become. Whoever we spend time emulating, we become. Whoever we compare ourselves to, we become the average of the 5 people we compare ourselves to most. Now, what's happening in the world? A lot of times we're spending a lot of time thinking about negative people. We are busy thinking about our mother-in-laws and co-sisters and I don't know, whichever relationships are not working for you, the bhabis and the kakis and the chachis and the buas and the nanis and dadis and whoever's not working for you. And then what happens? We become so negative and we wonder why has our energy gone so down or downward spiral? Because you've been whoever you think about Mother Teresa, you'll pick up that energy. You think about God, you'll pick up that energy. You think about Dalai Lama, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, you'll pick up that energy. You keep thinking about people who are negative in your life, who've said things to you that have hurt you, you'll pick up that energy. Now that you know that our vibe is an energy game, it's a frequency game, that the whole world lives in energy and vibration and frequency. Once you start to understand that, you consciously start to go, default setting is think negative. Every single day, do gratitude, do gratitude, do gratitude, do gratitude. One day, naturally, you will become a positive person. And from that day onwards, no negative person will be able to control you because your positive muscle will be so much stronger than your negative muscle. Make sense? Yoo-hoo, I've been aspiring and emulating to be you. Oh, that's so kind of you. God bless. Thank you. Sparkling Soul Heals is asking, ma'am, how to overcome mom's guilt? I have an infant to take care of, but I'm also pursuing my studies. Even if I'm not available for an hour, I feel very guilty. So, mom guilt is all about you actually starting to see what time is yours and what time is the baby's. Okay, if all the time is the baby's, you'll always remain in mom guilt. Correct or no? So what is it that you're going to be allowing yourself to do for you to do without guilt? And I'll give you an example from my life. So when I started becoming a life coach, my children were 3 and 6, and I would have to leave them and go to America for 2 weeks for almost a year. I think I went 5 times. So you can imagine how many days. Almost, I remember, I think in my TEDx talk, I spoke about it, that almost 365 days in a year, 65 days of the year I was out, and 300 days only I was mother. And so that year I was feeling extremely guilty. Then I told myself a new story, that if it takes me 65 days to be such a happy woman, that I am so much happier a mother when I'm with them and they get the best of me, then I'd rather they have a 300 days happy mother than have a 365 days unhappy mother. Now in your case, let's say you need 2 hours to study every day, then I'd love for you to start to say, to be a great mother for 22 hours, I need to be a studying mother for 2 hours, because if I give that up, who I will show up as with that person will not be the same. I remember I had a friend whose husband had fractured his leg, and they were supposed to go on this hiking trip with a large group of people. So he told her, don't go hiking. And she said, if I stay back, no, I will not be the woman you will like. So let me go, let me come back. It was just some 24 hours trip or something like that. It was just a one-nighter. She said, let me go, I'll come back and look after you, because I'll be so guilty that I'll do such a phenomenal job. But if I don't go, I'll be so bitter that for the whole month I'll be at home, but instead of serving you, I will be removing my, where did my nimbu go? Instead of being a mango, I'll be a nimbu. Correct or no? So I feel like a lot of times our guilt can serve us, when instead of using it to make it into regret, we actually use it to give back more because we are guilty. So how you use your guilt will decide a lot about your life. I don't like to turn any of my guilts into regrets. I don't ever say, oh, why didn't I spend time with my children, or why didn't I do that? I don't think like that. I always go, okay, now what can I do? That time has passed. If I could go back in time and change it, I would love to change it. But now I can't do that. What can I do now so that I don't live in regret? And then whatever it is that will show up, I'll do that. And I'll do it long enough till the other person also starts to go, I'm so glad that she did what she did, because in her guilt, she's so much better as a human being than she is when we are guilt free. When we are guilt free, we start to go, मेरा तो statue लगाओ, आपको और कोई नहीं झेल सकता था, मैं ही हूँ जो झेल सकती हूँ. And we start to speak the very different kind of a conversation. Little guilt women should live in. I to tell women, you should be little guilty towards your children, you will give them better quality time. Little guilty towards your husband, you will be a better wife. Little guilty towards your in-laws, you will be a better... Because I had started studying back in 2011, I was so guilty that from a joint family, I would go off for 2 weeks. That when I used to come back, I used to be like, my mother-in-law used to say anything, she used to be like, घर को रेनोवेट करना है, मैं जाऊंगी दिल्ली, मैं सोफास खरीद के लाऊंगी, मैं सारा रेनोवेशन करूंगी, मैं कर्टन्स बदल दूंगी. I remember at one point just becoming the interior decorator for the whole house because I was so guilty. But it was such a beautiful thing, because then all of that guilt converted into some actionable proper step where I actually started to get appreciation instead of criticism. So it was such a cool convert that instead of getting criticism, I was getting appreciation because of me using guilt the right way. समझ लग गई. Kalpana Sharma, hey Pooja, should one have patience in their career making or should be a go-getter? Kalpana, it's not a one this or that, it's this and that. So there are two items in your career. One is where you have control. One is where God has to return the favor. Okay. So I want to do the masterclass. I have to prepare for the masterclass. I should be a go-getter in that. Okay. When I launch the masterclass, God has to give me the sales, correct, of my masterclass. Maybe it goes right. Maybe it doesn't go right. That's where I need patience. Patience in the divine grace and go-getter in all your own activities. So divide your life into where do I have control, where do I don't have control. Wherever you have control, you want to become a go-getter. Wherever you don't have control, you want to have more patience. Having patience on the things. See, imagine a farmer. He has to put the seed. God is not going to come and put the seed for him. So there he has to be a go-getter. But if every day he digs and says, "क्यों नहीं grow कर रहा, क्यों नहीं grow कर रहा," उसने grow थोड़ी करना है. He has to patiently understand seasons and watering and tilling and toiling and soiling and all of the stuff, right? That is required by a farmer. So once you start to understand that it's a combination, every career of ours is a combination in life where we have to be both. And we have to know where to be what. Make sense? Dimple Mehra is asking, good morning Pooja ma'am. When comparisons creep in, progress often feels diminished. What is the best way to return to focus to the authentic growth? Dimple, comparison is termite, according to me, okay? Anytime you start to compare yourself to someone, you should know that you are now putting termite in your brain, which without you even knowing will start to expand and make your entire brain khokla. Okay, so get out of the comparison game as fast as you can. What I tend to do is bless the person and then bless myself. So what do I mean? Let's say I'm seeing someone on Instagram, and on Instagram we can tend to compare a lot because it's a more of a comparison game because people only put their good stuff. Nobody's putting bad things. So you're comparing your full life with someone's best life. And that's just an unfair comparison in the first place. True? If the only picture of mine that I'm putting is the good pictures, you're going to think I'm so beautiful. You don't even know in reality on my bad days what I look like, right? And that's pretty much what happens in the comparison game. We don't know someone's inner life, but we are comparing ourselves to what they are showing us. We don't even know what's happening. So a lot of times you're seeing half the picture and making all of the judgment. You know, so somebody can look very skinny to you, but later on you come to know that they have intestinal problem. Now you're like, oh my God, I had no idea. And you've been thinking, wow, she's lost so much weight and she's looking so hot. And so can you see how our brain works? So what I like to do is anytime I land up feeling jealous, envious, comparing, I bless the person that, you know, God, give them more, because I don't want to come from a scarcity mindset. I don't want to ever think that just because they got, I won't. So what you do is you shift your entire belief to that is mine cannot go to someone else, and that is not mine cannot come to me no matter what. So once you start to act in that manner, then it becomes very easy to bifurcate life itself, because whatever you're comparing yourself to, you can just start to say that belongs to them. They deserve this. May they get more. I bless them. Convert every jealousy of yours into a blessing. Okay, I love doing that. Like I'll just shift that energy to God bless, God bless, God bless, God bless them, God bless them. And then I'll also ask for blessings for myself. That God, now that you've shown me what it is that I want, make me work as hard, make me do all the right things so that I too can enjoy the success or whatever it is that I'm comparing myself to. So then I will work for that. Then I'm not going to just leave it. Remember the go-getter and the patience? Then patience is out. Now I'm a go-getter because now I know what exactly I want. Because in your jealousies, always feed back on what you desire. Once you know your desires, now work hard for it. No, somebody else has. You're only seeing their success. You've not seen their hard work. Ankita is asking, everyone wants to be strong or get the lost confidence back. Is it possible to get back in short span of time? As many toxic people around you are likely to, because karma somehow gradually be a cause of losing confidence. Ankita, the beauty of confidence is that you can build it back the day you decide to. And what you need to do is take small risks and accomplish it. So let's say I've lost my confidence around my strength training because I got influenza and I lost all my muscle in those 10 days of having very high fever. Now I go back to the gym and I start again with the 2 kgs, the 4 kgs, the 8 kgs. Last time it took me 3 months. This time it will take me 45 days because I'll go much faster because I already have experience in that journey. But I have to regain all of my confidence. Maybe I went on stage and I forgot the most important point that I was supposed to make. I will go back on stage and do it again and again. Take small risks. This time speak in front of 5 people, then 10 people, then 15 people, and someday maybe 50 people, right? So you have to build back your confidence through action. Small risks, accomplish. Small risk, accomplish. Small risk, accomplish. Suddenly, you are now looking like an extremely confident person to the world, not knowing that those small risks converted into you becoming so confident. Okay? Lovely. Samreen is asking, I invite people, but I can't convince them to buy the package. Samreen, the word convince is not a great word in the first place, okay? So whenever you are trying to sell something to someone, you know, when you're interested for someone to buy something from you, the most important conversation you need to have with yourself is, why is this important to them? Okay? The more conversation you can have around what this will bring for them, what promise will it deliver, what benefits will it give them, the better your. A lot of times what we tend to speak about is the features. So if I have, let's say I want to sell a car, just giving you any random example, but if I want to sell a car and I keep speaking about the engine, the petrol tank, the, the V6 this and the this thing 7 and that thing is this thing and that. What am I doing? I'm talking a lot about the car and the features. So what I'm selling is the car. I don't want to sell the car. I want you to buy the car for what it will do for you. So then I find out. So what do you do? I ask the person. And they tell me that they have a factory in Sri Perumbudur. Okay. So now I say, you know what? How many hours per day do you spend in a car? And they go 2 hours going and 2 hours coming back. 4 hours you're spending in the car. Would you agree that this would be a very important 4 hours of your life? Do you have a driver or do you like to self-drive? Let's say somebody says, I have a driver. Even more important that you have a car that you can enjoy. Let's say they say self-drive. Even more important because now you're going to be spending time behind the wheel. Don't you need all of this very luxurious feel so that you can really enjoy those 4 hours? It's like flying first class, right? And so what you do is you marry whatever it is that you are giving to them by what they need in their life. When that marriage happens beautifully, that's when people start to buy. So people don't buy what you are selling to them. People buy their dreams, their desires, their pain points, if you can tap into a pain point of theirs or a desire of theirs, you will be able to sell to them. Till the time you are focused on your product, it's a very hard way to sell. So don't focus on the product, focus on what will be the benefit or the promise that you can make to your client, and then focus on that and then let them convince you. So many times you can just ask a beautiful question. How do you think that this car can improve your life? They will start to convince you. You ask the right questions, you will be amazed how people will sell your products to themselves. Make sense? Health by Ankita. Good morning, Pooja. From a long time in my life, I wasn't asking from the universe for my wishes out of guilt of being an atheist for almost a decade. I want to ask, but I feel selfish of becoming greedy. So, I don't know what the exact definition of an atheist is, but if the definition is that it does not believe in God or in religion, then I want you to know, ask yourself, what do you believe in? Do you believe in science? Okay. So why don't you study the science of manifestation and how we have something called the pineal gland, which is also the radio signal of our brain, and how the pineal gland today is connected to the universe. If you start to understand God particles and particle theory by itself, you will start to see that intention actually can change. So there is a whole factual science now that if you put somebody in front of a binary machine which gives out zeros and ones, This person can set the intention that the machine should give more ones. And can I tell you, the machine starts to give more ones. This person sitting there can set the intention, which means their thought can impact a machine. There is a whole experiment that they did with this, what do you call this? It would be like a computer robot. So they put a computer robot in a tennis, let's say a tennis ground, okay? And around it, they let the chicks hatch. Now, chicks have a habit of believing that whenever they are born, whoever's in front of them becomes their mother. So they thought that this robot is the mother. So wherever it would go, it would follow. Now, after an hour of the chicks making this imprint on this robot, they took all these chicks, and you can watch this whole experiment. It's there on YouTube itself. They took these chicks and they put them in a cage on the right side of this tennis court. Okay. Now, they left the robot to freely hang out in the tennis court. Now, when the chicks were not there, the robot went all over the tennis court. Once the chicks started to yell out from that cage on the right side, 98% or 97%, I can't remember the exact percentage, 97% of the time the robot stayed on the right side of the tennis court. It did not even go to the left side. And they've mapped this whole thing out of how the robot was free flowing which means your intention now can be scientifically proven that it has qualities of manifestation. So I don't need you to believe in God, but you must believe in something. Is it cosmic intelligence? Is it manifestation? Is it science? Is it innovation? Is it God particle? Is it DNA? Is it thoughts? Thoughts create things. I don't know what you believe in. Find what you believe in and then build on that. The beauty today is that earlier on we only knew symbolism of God to connect to the universe. Today, we have been able to prove why meditation works, why intentions work, what God particle means, what observer's theory is, these are all now part of science. So everything that used to be said by the yogis, and we just had to believe the gurus and the yogis because they knew something we didn't, because they had sat 7 years under the Himalayan on the Himalayan mountain. We don't need any of that now. Now enough experiments have happened where we now know that what we think becomes our truth. Now that you know that, oh, it's 11:07. I've gone 7 minutes beyond time without even noticing. Oh my God. Okay, everybody, you got the point right, sweetheart. So I hope that you're going to stop feeling guilty about being an atheist and at least start having a conversation with the universe. Okay? Oh God, how to search this YouTube video? That's a very good question. Put robot, put chicks, put motherly feeling. I don't know. I don't know how to find it, but it'll show up. Okay, there are a lot of reels on Instagram on this. It's a full experiment, and let me see if I can Google it for you and share it on my stories today. I'll try to do that. Okay. Okay, on that note, I have to run because I have gone way over time. I actually have an 11:15 client waiting for me. Cheers to lemons. Loads of love. Let me get some nice pictures in my floral house today. Love you all. Thank you for coming. You know the drill. Tell me what was your biggest takeaway from today's session, and also put it in your stories. Make sure you put it in your stories and you tag me. And when you tag me, then I will share it in my stories. Okay? Done? Thank you everyone for coming. Loads of love. Bye. Ciao.